Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Simone here, and today I have I feel like the booktube tag of all time, and that is the mid-year book freakout tag, which everybody has done, and I've done this I think every single year I've been on booktube, and I feel like most people tend to. This was originally created by Chami and also Earl Grey Books. I will link Earl Grey Books original down below, but I think Chami has deleted her video now or privated it, so I will link her channel anyway. But yes, this is basically, it's the middle of the year, and so we do the mid-year book freakout tag. It's like a tradition, and I'm very much here for it. So there are, I believe, 14 questions, so let's get started. Also, I don't currently have any of the books physically that I'm going to talk about today, so I'm just going to put pictures up here. Okay, so question number 1 is best book you've read so far in 2020, and I haven't really thought, I don't really rank them yet. Like, I figure I tend to do that at the end of the year, but instead I've decided to pick one of the favourites, and then probably this is one that I think will be in my top 10 books of the year, so you know, and that is The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. I think last year was the first year I read a Karen Slaughter book. Was that the end of last? It was either the end of last, I think it was the end of last year, and I've now read I think 3 of her books. I have loved one, or loved 2 and hated the other, and so for me The Good Daughter is my favourite of her books I've read so far, and it's genuinely one of my favourite books of all time. I thought it couldn't get much better than Pretty Girls, but then Good Daughter just was amazing. It basically follows Charlie, who is a lawyer, and when she was younger her house was attacked and her mother was killed, and her and her sister were left in this situation with her father, who is a defence attorney, and it was very much around the fact that they think that it was to do with who he was defending at the time. And it's such a wonderful book. It's very, very gory, so if you're new to the horror, if you're new to the thriller genre, then I definitely wouldn't recommend starting with this one. But if you're okay with pretty grim and horrific bodily horror, then you'll love this. It's such a great book, and I just think it's really well done, and I loved it. So yes, definitely one of my favourite books of the year. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far in 2020, and for me this has to be How Hard Can Love Be by Holly Bourne. I read the first one, Am I Normal Yet, I want to say a couple of years ago, and really loved it, and then I decided to pick up the sequel because I've heard nothing but good things about Holly Bourne from a lot of my booktube friends, and I could not have been more excited to pick it up. And this second book I think was so well done. Basically the series is the Spinster trilogy, and it follows 3 girls. It follows 3 girls who basically have become friends, and they each have their own issues, but it kind of is about them creating a feminist group, which is the Spinster Club. They are reclaiming the term spinster, and also each one of them is dealing with other things as well. So the first one follows OCD quite heavily, and this one talks about Amber, who has essentially gone to America to stay with her mum, who left her and her dad when she was younger, and her mum has now married a new man and is running a camp in America, so she goes to this camp to work and to see her mum, and it kind of is about their relationship. It's about how her and her friends deal or converse over Skype and things, and their conversations, and they talk a lot about feminism, but it's also about her kind of starting to fall for a guy there, and it's such a good book, and yeah, I recommend it. It was definitely a great sequel. I've also now got the 3rd book in the series, which the lovely Victoria bought for me, so I cannot wait to read that one. Question number 3 is new release you haven't read yet but want to, and I have an arc of Monstrous Souls by Rebecca Kelly, and this is it's kind of a book that has a lot of like, it's a very dark mystery, but it's also got like amnesia tropes in it, which is definitely one of my favourite things. This book came out, I believe, at the end of June, so it's only just come out, and it's about a woman named Heidi, who was the victim, I'm just going to read it off my screen, of a brutal attack that left her hospitalised, her younger sister missing, and her best friend dead. But Heidi doesn't remember any of that. She's lived her life since then with little memory of her friends and family and no recollection of the crime, and now it's starting to come back and she's trying to piece things together. So like I said, it's one of my favourite tropes in books, is the amnesia trope, so it's definitely one I'm excited about. And yeah, this is a book that I have as well, so I clearly need to get on that. Question number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and for this one I have gone for His and Hers by Alice Feeney. This one is another mystery thriller. It's one that I'm really excited by, and I don't think I've read any Alice Feeney before, but I'm really excited to give this one a go. This follows a woman named Anna Andrews who has the dream that she's always loved, and that she is the main TV presenter of the BBC's lunchtime news, and now something is threatening to take her job, but she is determined to keep hold of it. She's asked to cover a murder in her hometown, and she's very hesitant about it to start with, until she realises that the person who is the victim turns out to be one of her childhood friends. And then I think it also is like a dual perspective of the detective chief inspector, who's also trying to figure out what's happening to this case. Sounds really intriguing. Again, it's that like returning to their small town thing, which I really enjoy. And yeah, this one sounds like a real roller coaster, and I'm really excited to get to this one. Again, I think this one comes out at the end of July, so I feel like, yeah, it's definitely one that's on the radar. So yeah, I need to read that one soon as well. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment, and that is When the Lights Go Out by Mary Kubica. This is a thriller, I guess you would call it, that I was really excited by. I'd read Good Girl, or is it Good Girl? The Good Girl by Mary Kubica, and I quite enjoyed it. It was kind of average, but I thought maybe the next one I read of hers would be more interesting. This has all the good like initial premises. It follows a girl named Jessie whose mum dies in hospital, and then she finds out basically after that her identity is not real and she doesn't actually exist. The person with her name is like died when she was young or something, so she's got the name of this person like who actually was like a child who got injured in a car accident or something, and basically it's about that. Now, I don't have a problem with the premise of this book. It sounds really interesting. I would love to, I'd love someone else to take it and write it, because I think that would be great, but for some reason, I can't tell you what the reason is, but there is one, like, a very lazy story writing that was used, like a twist, or tried to be a twist, and I mean, I didn't see it coming because I hoped that no one was still doing this, but I'm not going to obviously spoil what that is, but I nearly threw the book across the room in disgust, to be honest, and I am probably going to just not read any Mary Kubica again, because after that I think I'm done. Question number 6 is biggest surprise, and this one for me was definitely The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Marie Crowhurst. I saw this on Victoria's channel. She talked about her favourite books of last year, and I feel like this one might end up on my favourite books of this year. This is a book that I was not expecting very much by, because it's a historical fiction novel. It's kind of like a historical fiction feminist tale, and it was very interesting, and like I said, I wasn't expecting very much because I just didn't really know what to expect. But basically this is about obviously Ursula Flight, who is born on the night of a bad luck comet, and her all through her young life she wants to be a playwright, and it's her dream and her deep desire, but her family's kind of destiny for her is for her to get married, and so she is trying to figure out what to do, how to kind of navigate the world. It's also set in the 1800s, so it has a lot of that like historical element to it. It's very interesting. I absolutely loved it. The way the writing is, like, throughout the book there are bits of like sections of it that's actually written from like in a place like style. It's so good, honestly. I highly recommend it. I'm so glad Victoria mentioned it to me, and yeah, I definitely want everybody to read this one. Question number 7 is your favourite new author. It could be debut author or a new to you author. And for me, this one has to be Joshua Kahn. I read Shadow Magic by Joshua Kahn, which is a middle grade that is a middle grade fantasy that just blew me away. Honestly, I'm not somebody who generally reads very much middle grade, and if I do, I very rarely give it more than 3 stars. But this one was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely adored it. It's a book that I actually bought for AJ a really long time ago, and it just happened to be on the shelves, and I thought I'd give it a read. And I'm so glad I did, because I loved it. It is basically a kind of a world where there are 4 different houses, and each house is kind of ruled by a different person. And in this house, the House of Shadows, basically a young girl has now become the ruler because her family has died, and then it's very difficult to explain, but basically she has an executioner who happens to buy a young boy from a slaver, and then it's about the antics they get up to together, and things happen, and it's so good. There's like a giant bat in this at one point. Like, how could you not love it? So yes, I highly recommend. Question number 8 is your newest fictional crush, and I don't really get fictional crushes very much, but I did immediately think of Officer Rory Yates from Texas Ranger by James Patterson. I loved the character of Rory Yates. He, in this book, he is, as I said, he's a Texas Ranger, but he gets a phone call from his ex-wife, and then when he turns up at her house, she's been murdered, and he is then accused of her murder, and essentially has to try and figure out who did it to try and clear his name. And the way that he related to the people around him, I think was a very attractive quality. And his relationship with his ex-wife, although they were ex-wife and husband, I think it was definitely it just showed you the level of respect they had, and I think that's quite attractive to me as well. So although I don't really have fictional crushes, I would say he was probably the one who would have been had I have had those. Does that make any sense? I don't really know. Question number 9 is your newest favourite character, and for me, I really thought about this. I have quite a few different ones, but the one that kind of immediately sprang to mind was April from Pretending by Holly Bourne, another Holly Bourne book in this video. I read this one as an arc, and I really enjoyed it. Pretending was it started off quite slow for me, only because I didn't particularly like the kind of alter ego perspective. Basically, this follows a woman named April who has some pretty like things that trigger her quite a lot in her life, and some pretty bad traumas, and she goes on a dating website, and she is struggling to find somebody through dating. So she goes on a dating website and she pretends to be this person named Greta, who is the person I don't really like, the kind of alter ego, and she does what she thinks she should do to find a man, basically. And it talks a lot about so many things, but it's just really well done. I really loved it. I would highly recommend. I do think, like I said, Greta's points are supposed to be annoying and supposed to not make any sense and to be kind of like really uncomfortable. I did not like reading those bits at all, but April as a character I did really enjoy, and I liked seeing the talk of PTSD as well, because I often find that's not something that's mentioned in books, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry, and so for this one I have to go for It's Not Okay to Feel Blue by curated by Scarlett Curtis. This is a set of like short stories, poems, essays, I guess, about mental health and people's mental health. And the reason this made me cry was because a few times it really did, like, it got me. It was like hit me to the, like, I felt a bit seen by it, I think. It definitely was something that really just resonated with me, and I think the way that the book was written and put together, I just think it was very well done. It's definitely something that I would sort of pop back in and out of. It's not necessarily something I would read all the way through again. But I am really glad that, you know, it's something that is in the world, because I think a lot of people will get a lot from those from that book. Question number 11 is a book that made you happy, and for this one I went with Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. This is the sequel to Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, but I definitely preferred this one to the first. This follows one of Simon's best friends in the first book, who I didn't actually like in the first book very much, but this follows Leah, who is a bisexual plus-size woman who is just amazing. I absolutely love her character. I think she's very sassy, but she's also very kind of like straightforward about what she thinks. She's very open. There isn't any form of communication issue with her because she's very much like tells you as it is, says what she thinks. And I think it was really refreshing to see, firstly, a plus size character. I always love that because it's nice to see somebody who looks like me in stories, but also it's nice to just have a perspective from somebody different, and yeah, I just really loved that one. I think it was really well done. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Now, the day I'm filming this, I received a lot of books yesterday because my birthday was yesterday. Thank you so much to everybody that did give me gifts or send me love on my birthday. I had a great time. It was wonderful. Later on this month will be my haul video for that, so I'm not mentioning any of those books here just because I don't really want to spoil anything, but I did get some very beautiful books. But the one I've actually gone for from before those was a book that I bought on my Kindle to participate in the mental health-a-thon, and then I never actually got around to reading it, so I do really need to, and that is The Stranger on the Bridge by Johnny Benjamin. Now, this is a bit of a strange one, but I love the cover of it. There's just something very soothing about it, which is helpful when it's a mental health book. This follows Johnny Benjamin, and it is a true story. It details his life when he tried to take his own life by, he was on a bridge basically, and somebody, a member of the public, talked him down and managed to help him realise that it was not where he needed to be at that point. And he now has talked about how he's gone through steps to improve his mental health, and to do lots of things in order to not be at that place again. And I need to read this. I'm desperate to read it. Like I say, I have it on my Kindle and I'm really excited, and I just love the cover. Honestly, it's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I do really want to get to this one. Question number 13 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Do you remember at the beginning of the year when I was like, I'm going to be so much better this year than last year on my TBRs, and I just haven't been that good. So I had 3 TBRs at the end of the year, which were for me to read, things to read this year. So the first one was 12 books to read in 2020. The second one was my Project Thriller TBR, which again is 12 books to read in this year. And the other one is my booktubers recommend my TBR, again 12 books in that as well. So that's a total of 36 books. Now we're halfway through the year and I've read 16 of them, which is not terrible. But I do still have 20 to go, so I feel like it's doable, but yeah, definitely not, I feel like I could do better, but I'm going to try, and I will continue and keep you updated and posted, of course, but yeah, I've still got, so I'm not going to say specific books, but I need to read the 20 I have not read from those lists, basically. And then question number 14, and the final question, is your favourite book community member. And I couldn't pick one, so I've picked 2. And I've picked these 2 because one of them is, well, let me just say who they are, right? So the first one is Victoria, from What Victoria Read. Victoria is somebody who was on my radar, I guess, towards the end of the last year, but I've only really started to speak to her and to talk to her a lot more, much more recently. And she is such a wonderful, wonderful human. We talk very regularly now. She's just, I love her. I love everything that she does. I will always support her. I'm very much wanting to, like, you know, I just love being able to have friends that I found on BookTube. I think it's just so great. And then she just, I don't know, there's just something about her. I feel like, I don't know, I just love her. And she came to my birthday live show, which I'll also link the live show down below if you haven't seen it. It's a couple of hours, but it was so much fun and I love spending it with the 2 of them. And then the last person I'm talking about today. This person, I don't want to get emotional. This person, so basically in January, I reached out to some of my favourite booktubers and asked them to recommend me a book for my TBR for the year. And one of the people I reached out to was Leanne from Literary Diversions, and I love Leanne. I've always loved Leanne's content. I've watched her for a good couple of years, and I just think she's amazing. And then I reached out to her in January, and we spoke on Bit online, then we spoke on WhatsApp, and now I don't think I go a single day without speaking to her. We voice message each other, we constantly message back and forward. She's become, honestly, if you could have like friend soulmates, 100% that's what's happened. She's honestly my best friend, and I could not do any of this without her, ever. Everything, like, she's constantly there. She's an absolute gem. Her and AJ get on really well. I get on really well with lovely wife Helen. Like, the four of us just have a great time. We do like gaming FaceTimes, and I love her. I love them both. I think they're all great. I'm so excited that we got to meet this year. And also, something I haven't actually said online yet, I don't think. I've said it sideways in one of Leanne's messages, but Leanne is also going to be my maid of honour when I finally get married, which who knows if that's going to be this year. It's very unlikely at this point. But when I do, she will, and I'm so excited. I literally asked her and sobbed because she said yes, and it was like I was proposing to her. And yeah, I don't even understand like how this has happened to us in the last 6 months, but I love her to to everything about me loves her. So Leanne, if you're watching this, I love you. But you already know that because I tell you this all the time. And yes, so they are the people I had to mention. If you aren't subscribed to either of them, please go and do, because honestly, they are both joys to watch, and you will be very excited and happy to see their content, I'm sure. I'm not going to tag anybody in this because I feel like it's something that's like a rite of passage. So if you haven't done it, please do it because it's great, and I'm very excited to see everybody's answers as well. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of the ones I have said, and I will see you guys next time for another video. Bye guys, stay safe.